Hi there, and thank you for joining me for today's live reading of Rune of Thorns, Enchanted Shadows, book number 2 by Kelly N. Jane. This is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue. The Fae remained divided after the chasm, so Osric, the great guardian of Kylus, created the land of Adenia. He then foretold a cryptic prophecy that would come to pass after 2 burning moons occurred 18 years apart. A millennium passed without such an event, and the prophecy faded from memory, spoken of occasionally in hushed tones as folklore or delusion, until 17 years ago when the first burning moon occurred, on the same day as the reaping. The sparrow of silver fire will strike the owl from above and below, when thrice the 7 gather before the prime goes dark. Chapter 1, Rowena. Dread coiled in Rowena's gut. She ground her teeth to stop the bile from rising, but the taste of failure already coated her tongue. Moons, what had she become? A month ago, she'd laughed at fear, stood tall, blade in hand as if born to it. Hadn't she argued fiercely to anyone who'd listened that she was ready for battle, that she craved adventure, that she was a warrior? What a lie. Her hands balled into fists, nails digging deep into her palms. Not a warrior, just a child aching for her mother. A mother gone, a father dead, a home reduced to rubble and ghosts. A choked sound clawed up her throat, but she swallowed hard and forced it back. No, she would not break. With a growl, Rowena seized the sodden dishcloth and slapped it into the basin. She scrubbed hard, more demanding than necessary, as if scouring the grime could erase what she'd become. She had to be stronger. Scandon needed a queen, not a broken princess trembling at the wind. Her breath quickened, vision blurred. She hated this place, hated that Bram dragged her through shadows while more kings died among the ruins, and worst of all, for leaving Safi behind. She hated herself most, for not fighting harder, for not being enough, for knowing, deep down, she feared the door. The world outside no longer belonged to her. Had it ever? Inhale. Bram's voice, soft and steady, drifted across the room. Exhale. Her chin dropped to her chest, her lip quivered. She exhaled, trembling. This will pass, Bram spoke from just beyond reach. Moments ago, he'd stood across the room. His silence needed more than a keen ear to follow. She wasn't unaware, just anxious, exhausted, defeated. She leaned into the table for support. A single tear struck dishwater, sending it rippling. How can you say that? His fingers brushed her shoulder, an invitation, not a demand. Rowena spun and threw herself into his arms, tears finally spilling. She'd grown used to his quiet touch, craved it. He never pushed, never crowded. Always near, never too close. One arm wrapped around her, the other stroked her hair. You haven't had a moment's peace these past days. Much has happened. Much was lost. I cried many nights as Uther's slave. Her breath hitched. She sniffed hard against it. Bram leaned in, resting his head atop hers. His whisper stirred her hair. Planning vengeance is not the same as healing. She spread her fingers over his chest, leaning back to meet his gaze. Swirling amber burned with fierce intensity. Time will heal your grief. With me, you only need rest. His palm cupped her face, fingers skimmed the line of her jaw. As his thumb swept a tear from her cheek, she fought to hold the rest back. Rowena rested her head just below his collarbone. From the moment they'd arrived, he'd let her unravel, giving her space when she needed it and standing by her when she fell. She didn't deserve his kindness. Safi only has until Masa is full. That's less than a month, and I'm afraid to walk out the door. She is suffering because of me, maybe dying. We'll find Fadessa. We'll reclaim the sword, I promise. She believed him, but what then? And after that, will you give it up to save Safi if you must? She knew losing the sword gnawed at him. He never spoke of it, but more than once she'd caught him standing alone in the meadow, his fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. Perhaps it wasn't just the weapon. Perhaps it was all the time she wasted, drowning in her own turmoil. She shook her head. It had to be the sword. Whenever they spoke of it, his lips thinned and his amber eyes frosted over like winter ice. It was his duty to find and protect the Moonborn, to guard her and gather the armor of Kylus piece by piece. And the one piece he'd found, Rowena lost. To her aunt, the mad queen, Fidessa. One step at a time. Safi was the only family she had left. Rowena refused to claim relation to Fidessa. That bond had severed before it ever grew. Rowena would never sacrifice Safi to save a sword. When she closed her eyes, she was back in the feast hall at Velmig. Safi, sitting silent and dazed under Fidessa's spell. Danon dragging her away. Fidessa vanishing with the sword. Rowena tucked herself tighter against Bram's chest, letting silence fall between them. Even the formidable seeker had no comfort strong enough to wipe away the truth. Safi would remain trapped under Rowena delivered the sword of justice to Danon. And with every moment spent in the cottage's safety, the task grew harder, more dangerous. Rowena wasn't the only one hiding. Fidessa's smokescreen departure could have led her to any corner of Edenia. Rowena huffed out a breath. What's amusing? Bram asked, tracing slow patterns through her hair and down her spine. How can I find Fidessa if I don't even know where I am? Several heartbeats passed before Bram answered. We are in Havilar. Rowena leaned back, gaping. With the dryads? Yes. She twisted from his arms and bent over, hands braced on her knees. Then I am lost as well. Why had he brought her here? She'd trusted him to protect her, the only thing holding her together. And perhaps that had been her worst mistake. This is the safest place you can be. Ha! She flung her hands into the air. How can you say that? Every story says those who enter the forest uninvited are lost forever, and the dryads invite no one. Rowena stomped to the center of the room. She had survived her first visit to the cottage, when only a lonely chair sat before the fire. Now, a long sofa stretched along one wall where Bram had slept each night. His blankets were folded neatly at the end. He'd given her the only room with a door. And a lock. One she'd never used. One he'd never tested. As Seeker, I'm allowed anywhere in Edenia. He slid over and perched on the table's edge. She stared at the far wall, refusing to meet his gaze. That's fine for you. What happens to me if you're not here? She wished he stood before her in his Seeker form. The horns, the claws, the glow of runes across his face in the firelight. Those had become a comfort when fears threatened to overtake her. Foolishness. She forced herself back to reality. Why would that ever happen? Don't be foolish, Bram. Rowena hugged her herself and stared at the floor. Everyone leaves. Things happen. I'm not going anywhere. You will. She kept her back to him. Whether he admitted it or not, facts were facts. It's inevitable. As Seeker, you have a duty to all the Moonborn. I'm just the first you've found. A chair scraped against the wooden floorboards. Rowena peeked from the corner of her eye. Bram sat stiffly on the hard seat, staring into nothing. He understood, just as she did. They had no future together. Their fragile time in the cottage only added another knot to the tangle in her heart. What you say is partly true. I must help the others, but I'll find a way for us to stay together. I won't leave you. She twisted and found him hunched over, elbows on knees, forehead cradled in his palms. Here, in this solitude, it was easy to believe nothing could tear them apart. Her chest ached at the sight. She wanted nothing more than to stay with him, to help him gather the others, just as he had helped her. The thought drew a wry smile, but reality crushed it before it could take root. She eased toward Bram, crouching before him, and took his hands gently from his face. As much as I want to dream of our future, that isn't the path either of us walks. Duty and love, enemies of peace, enemies of each other. Rowena drew a steadying breath. We have limited time together. We have to accept that. He caught her gaze with a fierce intensity that pierced straight through her. This isn't how it was supposed to be. I never planned, never expected you. Her heart swelled, crushing the breath from her chest. Why had she ever doubted him? She tightened her grip. Bram, don't. Don't tell me how wrong this is, how it will never work. He turned his face away. When he spoke again, his voice barely reached her. How you could never truly love someone like me? He made no sense. She was the impulsive one, the reckless one. All she'd wanted was vengeance against Uther, and through it all, he had protected her. Rowena inhaled his smoky oak scent that clung to him, his warm brown gaze locked onto hers. She rose and perched on his thigh, never letting go of his hands. You've saved me more than once. No one has your skill or your care. I am the shadows, the darkness to terrify others into compliance. You are brave and kind. She bit her lip, fighting a grin. And you're not that scary. He narrowed his gaze, leaning so close their noses nearly touched. I have horns. Rowena's gaze dropped to his lips, a flock of sparrows taking flight in her stomach. When she spoke, her voice rasped out in a whisper. They're beautiful. He sat back with a heavy sigh. Rowena leaned her side against his chest. Neither of them spoke. The silence wrapped around them, a fragile respite from the world outside. Bram brushed a stray lock from her cheek. No matter what, we'll stay together. Hope sparked through her like a moonbeam, but it slipped away like mist in the night. We don't know what's coming. His fingers stilled against her shoulder. You doubt me? She leaned back to meet his gaze and shook her head. Never. I mistrust everyone else. That was the truth. It's why her breath caught, why her arms shook, why sweat soaked her skin whenever her hand brushed the door latch. Inside, with Bram, there were no dangers. Outside, terrors waited. Bram could not fight them all. Those who should have loved my parents killed them out of jealousy and ambition. The look on her father's face before he died haunted her dreams. Despair shadowed his eyes as he watched his daughter loose an arrow, not the one that pierced his heart, but he would never know the truth until she reached the hero grounds herself. I trusted others who either died or lied. I faced beasts that flew wild and attacked without reason. There's no control over anything. I see that now, clearer than ever now. You're safe with me. He rubbed his thumb across the back of her hand. I believe you, for as long as I'm with you. But I can't hide behind you forever. And you can't stay by my side when there are others to find. She swallowed, clinging to her composure. Bram pulled his hand free and cupped her cheek. I would never stand in front of you, only at your side. You are a capable warrior. You deserve the freedom to become the queen you were meant to be. Will I become queen? The idea of taking the crown without her parents to guide her sent terror through her chest. But the alternative was worse. She would not let Guts, her father's traitorous advisor, seize Tasing. He'd burned the Longhouse, trapping those loyal to her inside. What horrors had he unleashed on the survivors while she was gone? What happens after I have the sword and the Lunastone? Bram's mouth tightened. I'll have to find the others. You'll need to keep the armor safe until then. As Queen of Scandon, you'll have that authority. Whatever happens, I swear, I'll keep you safe. Trust me. She wanted to trust him with every beat of her heart and leaned into his touch. There are dangers that could hurt you, too. This form is not immortal. His lips quirked in a faint smile. That's true, but since the Hept had made me this way, it's not likely they'd kill me. The thought of Bram dying sent familiar unease rattling through her chest. She swallowed, but it only grew. She shot to her feet, shuffling out of Bram's reach. He rose and followed. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have made light of it. It's fine. I'm fine. Her skin crawled. She didn't know what to do with her hands. The walls seemed to close in. Talk about something else. Images battered her mind. Bram full of arrows, tumbling off a cliff, just like Han. Bram cold and lifeless in her arms, chest split open by an axe. Bram across the room, fading, eyes glassy and unseeing. None of it real. Yet her mind whispered that it could be, that she should believe it. She raked her fingers through her unbraided hair, letting it fall in a blonde curtain across her face. You're safe. Breathe. Brams threaded through the chaos of her mind. We have to go. We have to get Safi. It was the only way to make things right, the only way forward. Bram had done so much for her, but it was time she stood on her own. His duty was to the Moonborn. Hers was to her cousin, to her people. We will. Bram closed the space between them. Tonight, when Masa is out. That made sense. Masa's energy would steady her, fill her with the calm she needed. That will be good, but where will we go? Do you know how to find Fidessa? The sword has a vibration I can sense, though it is not precise. That's why I had to follow such a winding path to find you. But once we set out, I'll find her. The sword called to Rowena too, but never from far away. Perhaps together we'll feel it faster. I'm sure of it. The plan helped steady her breath. She glanced at the door again. Tonight, she would leave after dark.